Have you ever grown a tomato plant that produced incredibly sweet, juicy, and flavorful tomatoes, only to wonder if you could grow the exact same variety again next year without buying new seeds? The good news is you absolutely can. In fact, saving tomato seeds is one of the oldest gardening traditions in the world, and when it's done correctly, it can help you grow stronger plants that are already adapted to your local climate and garden conditions. But here's the surprising part: most gardeners unknowingly make simple mistakes that ruin their tomato seeds before they're ever planted. They save seeds from the wrong tomatoes, skip one essential step, or store them incorrectly, leading to poor germination the following spring. Today, we're going to walk through the complete process of saving tomato seeds the right way, from choosing the perfect tomato to storing your seeds for years of successful harvests. Whether you're growing just a few plants in your backyard or maintaining a large vegetable garden, these proven techniques can help you enjoy healthier plants and even bigger harvests next season. Let's get started. Saving your own tomato seeds isn't just about saving money, although that's certainly a nice bonus. It's also about preserving the varieties you love most. Every garden is unique. Your soil, rainfall, temperatures, and growing season create conditions unlike anyone else's. When you save seeds from plants that performed exceptionally well in your garden, you're gradually selecting tomatoes that thrive in your specific environment. Over several growing seasons, these plants often become better adapted to your local conditions. This natural selection process has helped gardeners improve crops for hundreds of years. Another major advantage is knowing exactly where your seeds came from. Commercial seed packets may contain excellent varieties, but when you save seeds from your own healthiest plants, you know their history from seedling to harvest. However, before you start collecting seeds, there's one very important thing to understand. Not every tomato is suitable for seed saving. If you're growing heirloom or open-pollinated tomatoes, you're in great shape. These varieties usually produce plants that remain true to their parent, meaning next year's tomatoes will closely resemble the ones you harvested this season. Hybrid tomatoes are different. Hybrid varieties are created by crossing two carefully selected parent plants. While they often produce outstanding fruit, the seeds from hybrids don't reliably produce identical plants the following year. Instead, you may end up with unexpected sizes, colors, flavors, or growth habits. That's why experienced gardeners generally recommend saving seeds from open-pollinated or heirloom tomatoes whenever possible. If you're unsure whether your tomato is a hybrid, check the original seed packet or plant label. Hybrid varieties are often marked with F1. Now that you know which tomatoes are suitable, let's talk about choosing the very best fruits for seed saving. This step is more important than many people realize. Avoid saving seeds from the first tomato you pick simply because it's available. Instead, spend time observing your plants throughout the season. Which plants stayed healthy despite hot weather? Which resisted common diseases better than the others? Which produced the largest harvest? Which tomatoes had the richest flavor? Those are the plants worth preserving. Choose fruits from your strongest, healthiest plants, not from weak or struggling ones. Also, select tomatoes that are fully ripe. Not just red. Fully ripe. A tomato that's allowed to mature completely on the vine contains seeds that have reached maximum development. These mature seeds generally have much higher germination rates than seeds taken from fruit picked too early. Many experienced gardeners even allow selected tomatoes to remain on the plant several extra days after reaching full color. During this time, the seeds continue developing inside the fruit. Look for tomatoes without cracks, rot, insect damage, or signs of disease. While a damaged tomato may still contain viable seeds, starting with perfect fruit gives you the best chance of preserving healthy genetics. It's also wise to collect seeds from several outstanding tomatoes instead of relying on just one fruit. This creates a broader genetic base while still selecting for desirable characteristics. If you're growing multiple tomato varieties, keep each variety separate throughout the entire process. Mixing seeds can easily happen if containers aren't clearly labeled from the beginning. A simple piece of masking tape with the variety name and harvest date can save a lot of confusion months later. Another question many gardeners ask is whether tomatoes cross-pollinate. Fortunately, tomatoes are largely self-pollinating. Their flowers are designed so that pollination usually occurs before the blossoms even open fully. Because of this, accidental cross-pollination is relatively uncommon compared with crops like squash, cucumbers, or pumpkins. However, bees can occasionally transfer pollen between nearby tomato varieties, especially with certain heirloom types that have more exposed flower structures. If maintaining absolute genetic purity is important, for example, when preserving a rare heirloom, you may need to isolate blossoms before they open. For most home gardeners, though, natural self-pollination makes tomato seed saving surprisingly reliable. One more helpful tip before collecting your fruit. Harvest on a dry day whenever possible. Wet fruit can introduce unnecessary moisture during the seed-saving process, increasing the chance of unwanted mold before the seeds are properly cleaned. Once you've selected your healthiest, fully ripe tomatoes, you're ready for the next stage, the step that many beginners skip entirely but that makes one of the biggest differences in seed quality. Now that you've chosen the very best tomatoes from your garden, it's time for the most important stage of the entire process, extracting and preparing the seeds. This is where many gardeners unknowingly make a mistake. They simply scoop the seeds onto a paper towel, let them dry, and store them until spring. While a few of those seeds may still sprout, they're often surrounded by a sticky gel coating that can reduce germination and may even carry certain seed-borne diseases. Nature has a reason for that gel. Inside every tomato, each seed is coated with a gelatinous layer containing natural compounds that temporarily prevent germination. If seeds began sprouting inside the fruit, tomatoes would reproduce poorly in the wild. Fortunately, gardeners can remove this coating using a simple fermentation process that closely mimics what happens when overripe tomatoes naturally decompose outdoors. The result is cleaner, healthier seeds with significantly better germination rates. Let's walk through the process step by step. Start by gathering a few simple supplies. You'll need a sharp knife, a spoon, a clean glass jar or small cup, a label, some water, a fine mesh strainer, and a plate or coffee filter for drying the seeds later. Always label your container before adding the seeds. It sounds obvious, but after processing several tomato varieties in one afternoon, it's surprisingly easy to forget which seeds belong to which plant. Now cut the tomato across its middle rather than from stem to blossom end. This exposes the seed cavities and makes it much easier to scoop out the seeds. Using a spoon or even your finger, gently remove the seeds along with the surrounding gel and juice. Don't worry if a little pulp comes along. It's perfectly normal. Place everything directly into your labeled container. If the mixture seems very thick, add just a small splash of water. Avoid filling the container with too much water at this stage. The natural tomato juices help create the ideal environment for fermentation. Once all your seeds are collected, loosely cover the container. A paper towel, coffee filter, or piece of cloth secured with a rubber band works perfectly. Avoid sealing the container with an airtight lid. Fermentation produces gases, and the mixture needs airflow. Now place the container somewhere warm but out of direct sunlight. An indoor temperature between about 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 to 27 degrees Celsius is ideal. Then comes the hardest part. Wait. Over the next 2 to 4 days, you'll notice some changes. Small bubbles may appear. A thin layer of mold often forms on the surface. The mixture may develop a sour smell. Don't panic. This is exactly what you want. Many first-time gardeners think they've ruined their seeds when they see mold forming. In reality, that mold is a sign that fermentation is doing its job. As beneficial microorganisms break down the gel coating, they also help destroy certain harmful pathogens that can survive on the seed surface. This simple biological process is one reason experienced gardeners have relied on fermentation for generations. However, timing matters. Don't let the seeds ferment for too long. If left for a week or more, the seeds themselves may begin to deteriorate or even sprout. Inside the container, check them daily. As soon as you see a noticeable layer of mold and most of the gel has dissolved, it's time to clean the seeds. Take the container to the sink. Add plenty of fresh water and stir the mixture gently. Here's something interesting you'll notice. Healthy, fully developed seeds usually sink to the bottom. Empty seeds, damaged seeds, and bits of pulp often float near the surface. Carefully pour off the floating material. Then add fresh water again. Repeat this rinsing process several times. Each rinse removes more pulp, mold, and lightweight debris while leaving the best seeds behind. Eventually, the water should become mostly clear. The remaining seeds should look clean and feel smooth rather than slimy. Next, pour the seeds into a fine mesh strainer. Rinse them thoroughly under cool running water while gently rubbing them with your fingers. This final rinse removes any remaining traces of the gel coating. Take your time here. The cleaner the seeds are now, the better they'll store over the coming months. Once rinsed, shake the strainer gently to remove excess water. Now spread the seeds into a single layer on a non-stick surface. Many experienced gardeners prefer ceramic plates, glass dishes, parchment paper, or coffee filters. Avoid paper towels if possible. Fresh tomato seeds have a tendency to stick tightly to paper fibers, making them difficult to separate later without causing damage. Leave plenty of space between the seeds. Large clumps dry unevenly and can trap moisture. Good air circulation is essential. Place the seeds somewhere dry, warm, and shaded. Direct sunlight isn't necessary and may expose the seeds to excessive heat. Instead, choose a location with steady airflow. Some gardeners even place a small fan nearby to improve air circulation, although it's not absolutely required. For the next week or two, stir the seeds gently once each day. This prevents them from sticking together and ensures even drying. Resist the temptation to speed up the process with an oven, food dehydrator, microwave, or direct heat source. High temperatures can damage the living embryo inside each seed, reducing future germination even if the seed appears perfectly dry. Patience once again pays off. As the days pass, the seeds will gradually become lighter in color and noticeably harder. When completely dry, they should snap cleanly rather than bend when pressure is applied. At this point, they're almost ready for long-term storage. But before putting them away until next spring, there's one final stage that's just as important as every step you've completed so far. By now, your tomato seeds have been cleaned thoroughly and are beginning to dry. While this may seem like the easiest part of the process, it's actually where many gardeners accidentally reduce the life of their seeds. The biggest enemy of stored seeds isn't cold. It isn't darkness. It's moisture. Even a small amount of leftover moisture trapped inside a seed can lead to mold, mildew, or a dramatic drop in germination over the winter. That's why experienced seed savers never rush the drying stage. Instead, they allow nature to do the work. Ideally, tomato seeds should dry for at least 7 to 10 days. If the air in your home is humid, extending the drying period to 2 full weeks is even better. During this time, continue checking the seeds every day. If you notice any clumps, gently separate them with your fingers. Turn the seeds occasionally so that all sides receive equal airflow. A well-ventilated room is far more important than a warm room. Good air circulation removes moisture gradually without exposing the delicate embryo inside the seed to damaging heat. How can you tell when the seeds are completely dry? There's a simple test. Pick up one seed and try bending it between your fingernails. A properly dried seed will feel hard and brittle. It should snap under pressure rather than bend or flatten. If it still feels slightly soft, Continue drying for a few more days. Remember, it's always safer to dry seeds a little longer than necessary than to store them too soon. Now let's talk about storage. Many gardeners simply place their seeds in a plastic bag and toss them into a drawer. Sometimes that works. But if humidity builds up inside the bag, all of your careful work may be lost before spring arrives. Instead, choose containers that protect the seeds from moisture and temperature changes. Small paper envelopes are one of the best options because they allow any tiny amount of remaining moisture to escape. Once the seeds have spent several days in a paper envelope, you can place that envelope inside an airtight glass jar or a sealed food storage container for additional protection. Some gardeners even add a small silica gel packet, the kind often found inside new shoes or electronics, to absorb any excess humidity. Just make sure the silica packet doesn't come into direct contact with the seeds. If you don't have silica gel, a small amount of dry powdered milk wrapped in tissue paper can also help absorb moisture. Now comes another important habit that experienced gardeners never skip. Label everything. It sounds simple, but after a few growing seasons, you'll probably have seeds from several tomato varieties, along with peppers, beans, cucumbers, herbs, and flowers. Without labels, they quickly become impossible to identify. Write down the variety name, the year you collected the seeds, and, if you'd like, a few notes about the parent plant. For example, you might write, excellent flavor, very productive, resistant to early blight, produced large fruit during hot weather. Those notes become incredibly valuable when deciding which seeds to plant in future seasons. Now let's choose the best storage location. Seeds last longest when stored somewhere cool, dark, and dry. A closet inside your home often works well. A basement can also be suitable if it's dry. Some gardeners store seeds in the refrigerator, where the consistently cool temperatures help extend their lifespan. If you choose this method, make absolutely sure the seeds are sealed inside an airtight container before placing them in the refrigerator. Otherwise, moisture from the refrigerator can slowly damage them. Avoid storing seeds in places where temperatures constantly change. Garages, sheds, greenhouses, and attics may become extremely hot during summer and freezing during winter. Those repeated temperature swings shorten seed life significantly. So how long do tomato seeds remain viable? When properly fermented, thoroughly dried, and stored correctly, tomato seeds often remain viable for 5 years or more. Many gardeners report excellent germination even after 6, 7, or 8 years, although germination rates usually decline gradually with age. This long storage life is one of the reasons tomato seed saving is so rewarding. With just a little effort each season, you can build your own seed collection without purchasing new packets every spring. Of course, even perfectly stored seeds should be tested before planting if they're more than a few years old. Fortunately, checking seed viability takes only a few days and can save you from disappointment when planting season arrives. Now that your tomato seeds are safely stored, there's one final step that can give you extra confidence before planting season arrives: a simple germination test. Many gardeners skip this step, only to discover weeks later that some of their seeds aren't sprouting. Testing a small sample ahead of time lets you know exactly what to expect and helps you decide whether to sow a few extra seeds. The process couldn't be easier. About 4 to 6 weeks before you plan to start your tomato seedlings, take 10 seeds from your stored collection. Moisten a paper towel so it's damp but not dripping wet. Place the seeds on one half of the towel, fold it over, and slide it into a plastic bag or food container without sealing it completely. The seeds need moisture, but they also need a little fresh air. Keep the packet somewhere warm around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or 21 to 27 degrees Celsius. Check it every day. Within 5 to 10 days, healthy seeds should begin to sprout. Count how many germinate. If 8 out of 10 sprout, you have an 80% germination rate. If all 10 sprout, your seed saving process was highly successful. Even if only 6 or 7 seeds germinate, don't throw the rest away. Simply sow a few more seeds than usual to make up for the lower germination rate. Now let's look at the most common mistakes gardeners make when saving tomato seeds and how to avoid them. The first mistake is choosing the wrong fruit. Always save seeds from your healthiest, most productive plants, not from the first tomato you happen to harvest. The second mistake is collecting seeds from underripe tomatoes. Seeds continue maturing as the fruit ripens on the vine, so patience pays off. Another common mistake is skipping fermentation. Although it may seem like an unnecessary step, fermentation removes the protective gel around the seeds and helps reduce certain seed-borne diseases. It also improves the overall quality of your stored seeds. Drying seeds too quickly is another problem. Never use an oven, microwave, or direct sunlight to speed things up. Gentle air drying is the safest method. On the other hand, storing seeds before they're completely dry can be just as damaging. A tiny amount of trapped moisture may not seem important, but over several months it can encourage mold and dramatically reduce seed viability. Poor labeling causes countless headaches as well. It's surprisingly easy to forget which variety is which after a long winter. Take a few extra seconds to write the variety name and harvest year. Your future self will thank you. Finally, avoid storing seeds in warm or humid locations. Heat and moisture are the two biggest enemies of long-term seed storage. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember these simple steps. Choose the healthiest open-pollinated tomato plants. Harvest fully ripe fruit. Extract the seeds. Allow them to ferment for 2 to 4 days. Rinse them thoroughly. Dry them completely for 1 to 2 weeks. Store them in a cool, dark, dry place. Test germination before planting. Follow those 8 steps every year, and you'll build a reliable collection of high-quality tomato seeds that can provide excellent harvests season after season. Saving seeds is about more than reducing gardening costs. It's about preserving varieties you love. It's about selecting plants that thrive in your own backyard. It's about becoming a more confident and self-sufficient gardener with every growing season. Many of today's treasured heirloom tomatoes have survived for generations because ordinary gardeners took the time to save seeds from their very best plants. Now you can continue that tradition. The tomatoes you grow this summer could become the foundation for even better harvests next year and for many years to come. If you found this guide helpful, let us know in the comments. Have you ever saved tomato seeds before, or will this be your first time? We'd love to hear about your favorite tomato varieties and the techniques that have worked best in your garden. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss more practical gardening tips, proven growing techniques, and simple ways to harvest healthier, more productive plants every season. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening and may your next tomato harvest be your biggest one yet.